Same day, 10:13 a.m. The hike was long and sweat made my shirt stick to me horribly. Sweat beaded from my forehead. I just wanted to go home, turn on a fan, and play some good games. Nope, not gonna happen, my mom's voice said in my head. When I looked behind me, Ben was glaring right at me. I shivered and picked up my pace to a little walk besides Aaron, who seemed to be having trouble with his backpack. But I was no doubt weaker than he was, so I wasn't going to offer assistance. To avoid feeling guilty, I looked away and peered into the woods. He passed 36 trees on either side every 3 steps. Beside a tree, I saw very human-like figures standing with a rope that had looked like a knot in his hand. I furrowed my brow and blinked. He was gone. On the way back, I saw the same thing, except he was closer this time. He wore something that looked like a burlap sack over his head, and black thread was woven into it to make it look like he was smiling to his ears. And he was dressed in black, ragged clothes. They were covered in mud. I blinked, and he was gone again. Maybe I was just on edge because I was afraid that Ben was going to pull something. But I leaned over, and Janelle said, "I think someone is following us." She looked at me funny. "What? Nobody's there. You're probably just paranoid because of the story the counselors told last night." I sighed. Maybe, but the guy didn't look like the one he described last night. "Maybe your eyes are just playing tricks on you," she suggested. "That's likely. My eyesight isn't that good. That's why I wear these," I said, pulling out the glasses case and opened it. Then pushed the glasses onto my face. Then snapped the case shut and shoved it back into the abyss that I call my pocket. My grandpa actually used to live here. Maybe his ghost came to haunt me. "Ooh," I said jokingly, and waved my hands around. Janelle laughed a little in reply and pat my shoulder. "Try not to think about it too much." She smiled, then turned her attention to the hike. We nearing the camp, and I stuffed my hands into my pocket, thankful for the fact that we were back and I could relax a bit. Silly me, I'd forgotten this was camp, not home. I groaned at this realization as it hit me. I wanted to slump onto the ground because my knees and feet hurt so much. But if I'd done such a thing, Ben and his buddies would have laughed at me. Heck, Janelle and my own bunkmates probably would have laughed too. "You know," Janelle said suddenly, "it took me a moment to realize that she was talking to me. You could probably tell your grandpa's creepy story at the campfire tonight. I bet you a bag of Cheetos that Ben will cry for his mom and hide in his cabin." This time, I genuinely laughed and shook my head. I don't think my mom would appreciate me telling stories like that around the campfire. Besides, that stuff happened for real. Lance eyed me. Did you know that there was a killer loose around here? He hanged people in the trees and cut off the limbs. What the heck is wrong with this place? I sighed. Anyway, that's probably a lie. I think my mom has researched everything behind around here. I don't believe that she would send me here with that kind of history unless she was desperate. Which she isn't. Whatever you say, Lance shrugged. All I know is that a couple of kids here, they were a few years ago, and they didn't ever come back. They say that they disappeared in the woods. But when they were in a hike... Dude, are you trying to scare the living daylights out of us all? My tone raised into a squeak. My attempts to keep a calm composure had quite obviously failed. Ben walked past us and growled a little, but I tried to ignore his irritable mood. Anywho, said Aaron, I'm gonna unpack this crap. I'll see you guys in a bit. See you, Aaron, said Dustin as he waved and we all went our separate directions. I went to the outhouse and then to my cabin, which Aaron was in. Unloading his huge backpack, he snacked on one of the energy bars, then tossed one to me with a smile. I shrugged, then opened it, and took a bite. Not bad. I nodded, and took another bite. Eat it before it melts. Did you put the energy bars in a cooler? Sure did. Aaron smiled proudly and took out a bottle of water and guzzled it. How do you fit a cooler in there? I asked in awe, eyeing the backpack in his bed. He just beamed like a boss. Wow, real mature, Aaron.
Saturday, 6:45 p.m.
I was completely exhausted after the boat race. Lance and I had taken turns rowing, but he was far better than me. That day, I hadn't seen the creepy guy standing anywhere near the camp. Thank God. But I was still quite frightened about the whole thing. Another thing was to be thankful for. I had mostly convinced myself that Janelle said it was right. But my eyes were playing tricks on me. No doubt about it. On the downside, I was pretty dang sure that Ben had sabotaged our boat. There was a tiny hole in it. But Aaron was quite prepared for such a thing, and used a rubber tube to cut it. Then blocked the hole. We also lost the race, but came in second. And surprisingly enough, I had actually enjoyed the race. I actually had fun. In the evening, around 8, the counselors handed out s'mores to the kids. I munched on mine silently and started peering off into the dark woods behind me. Dustin, Janelle, and Lance, and Aaron were all sitting on the other side of the fire, so I was pretty much on my own. Ben was sitting a little ways from me, too focused on eating his s'more to care about glaring at me again. His eyes were probably tired from it. I also laughed at the thought. There were noises behind me. Screams. I jumped up, and the others followed in suit, and looked where the voices were coming from. A girl, who looked around the same age as I was, completely out of breath, and grabbed my arms. She was in tears and shook. Dad, you hanged them in the trees? What are you doing in the woods? Asked the counselor in a strong tone. She looked too terrified to speak, but to my surprise, she did. We were just playing around and scared him. Then he got grabbed. When we found him, he was hanging from the tree. I think he's dead. At the end, her voice went to a whisper. Please! Lisa's still back there! Another scream went into the air, and I flinched, deciding on whether to stay or go help find Lisa that she was talking about. I didn't know how many people here, only bunkmates. Janelle and Ben. No, Lisa. Who is Lisa?
Where?
I asked in the bravest voice I could muster.
Just a little way back. Hurry!
The counselors had already taken off. Ben was standing by the fire, his face as pale as it could be. it was pretty clear that he wasn't going to do anything. Janelle was trembling and staring at me, as if to apologize for not believing me when I said the day before that someone was following us. The girl let go of me, and I took off into the woods. The counselors yelled at me to stay back, but I didn't listen. A few other kids followed, and I stopped when I saw a girl hanging in a tree by a rope. The rope was wrapped around her neck, and the sides of her face were slit to where it looked like she was smiling to her ears. Just like that thing I'd seen in the woods. Her arms and legs were missing. I doubled over and vomited at the sight of dripping blood. I could hear the counselors shouting to each other in the woods. When I recovered, I looked around and found that a boy was hanging in the tree too. He was done up just like the girl, who I presumed was Lisa. I refrained from vomiting again and held my stomach, swallowing hard, and looked at the dark red blood dripping down the boy's entire body. Well, what was left of it anyway. When the counselors came back, they reassured everyone that there was nothing to see, and to call the cops immediately. After sending all of us to our cabins, an hour later, both my parents had picked me up, and we were on our way home. I didn't know what happened after that. I hardly remembered what Mom and Dad had said to me. I just couldn't get the image out of my head. In 1,000 different angles, they flipped through my mind over and over again.
1 week later, Tuesday, 2:35 a.m.
Nothing seemed right. I didn't see things the way I did before. Dad was at a meeting in California, and his boss, he didn't want to leave unless he was sure that I was alright. He even said that he would miss the meeting to stay, just to make sure I was alright. I had several nightmares this week so far. All of them were about him. In my dreams, a voice was singing a song. A song so disturbing. It's hanging day, oh it's hanging day. The hangman's here, coming to hang again. Hanging day, oh hanging day. Hangman's coming again. And I hadn't the slightest clue what it meant. Was it related to the man in the woods at all? Was he the hangman my dreams sang of? Hours ago, Mom sent me to bed, but I just couldn't sleep tonight. It just felt like someone was there, watching me. Mom had checked on me a few times into the night, but then I think she went to bed at around midnight. But I heard feet shuffling in the hall, and saw the figure of my mother walking down the stairs. Shortly after, I heard the door opening and closing. She got up so suddenly. Maybe she got hungry. Sometimes it happened to her during the night. She had asked me several times if I've seen anything. I've refused to all of what I saw. But I told her I saw them. The kids hanging. And she was devastated. She wanted to know why so badly. It was all so traumatic. And I didn't help that when I went through it over and over again, every moment. Mom didn't realize to mention sending me away after this. I wonder if the disaster at the summer camp would make her even more overprotective and never let me leave the house again. After 10 minutes, I didn't hear the door open again. Maybe she'd run out to the gas station real quick, but I sighed and then pushed over the covers off me and stood, slowly moving my way through my room, then to the hallway, and started down the steps. Her shoes were still at the floor when I reached the bottom of the stairs. "Mom?" I called into the house, and my voice started to echo. But there was no answer. I called again. But still, there was no answer. She always answered me when I called. She was so worrisome about me now, so I knocked on the bathroom. Still, no answer. I swallowed hard and then moved to the back door of the house and gazed out the window on the back door and slowly turned the knob and opened the door. I stepped out into the backyard and looked around the green lawn, and Mom was nowhere. I checked her art studio, and she wasn't there either. Suddenly, I was grabbed and something was put over my head, and I screamed, "Let me go! Stop it!" Through the holes of the bag, or whatever it was, in my head, I searched for my attacker. It was a man with eyes sewn shut and a cut across his face, one in the shape of a mouth. It made him look like he was smiling to his ears. In a husky voice, the man began singing to me. "It's hanging day. Oh, it's hanging day. The hangman's here, coming to hang again. Hanging day, oh hanging day. The hangman's coming again. Hangman done himself dead, so came the new hangman." I hadn't heard that part before. I wanted to hear the rest, but I didn't. "No!" I ran out again. I began trying to rip off the stupid burlap, but it wouldn't come off. When I looked up, I saw through the little holes of the burlap that there was someone hanging in the tree. She was wearing a light blue robe, and the moon shone on. She was hanging in the tree in our backyard. The big one that I used to climb when I was smaller. She still had arms and legs. "New hangman's coming to hang again," sang the hangman as he dropped something in front of me. When I picked it up, I felt different. There was a dark feeling in my chest and in my whole body. I liked it. "Oh, it's hanging day," he sang again and backed away, seeming to fade into a gray fog. Then was gone completely. I turned back to the woman in the tree. When I saw her red, curly hair, I instantly recognized her. It was Mom. And the hangman wanted me to do what he did. Somehow, I couldn't stop myself. I climbed into the tree with ease, cut off her right arm with the blade he had given me. I wanted to do this. I shouldn't want to do this. She was slipping from my memory. I was too focused on the smell of blood to care. I'd removed her arms and legs, and she was bleeding all over the yard. When I climbed down from the tree, I stood in the middle of the yard and marveled at my masterpiece. How so perfect it was, as well as the smell. Soon, I began walking away with the scythe in my hand, and was beamed. For some reason, my face hurt. I didn't care.
There were so many places and people to turn into masterpieces. Credit Carl C.W. The end.